All right, here we are for our Chapter 2 notes. And again, these go into your interactive notebook. Okay, that's where you need to keep this one. Okay, again, our chapter notes are going to go in the interactive notebook along with vocab lists, some of our practices, things of that nature. Okay, and again, I told you it was kind of like your little personalized textbook. Okay, so let's start with our Memorabile Dictu for chapter 2, and this one is Inter Sacrum Saxumque. Okay, so there's kind of two possible translations for this. So the first one is very literal. It is using the true Latin. Okay, and so this one is between the sacrificial animal and the rock. Okay, now, not like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, but an actual rock. Okay, now you might hear adults actually say, and I'm running out of room again because I write kind of big, so I'm going to squish it in here. You might hear adults say between a rock and a hard place. Okay, and so what that kind of means, okay, it's a difficult situation for which there seems to be no solution. Okay, so it's about tough choices. All right, now Plautus, okay, he is the one who actually wrote this phrase into one of his plays. So what you need to know is that he is a Roman playwright. Okay, if you're kind of following along in the textbook, your ebook, I'm on page 15. We're going to actually read a snippet of a play by Plautus in this chapter, and the next chapter we're going to read a snippet from another comedic playwright whose name is Terence. Okay, now it is said that Plautus wrote approximately 130 plays, but only about 21 survive. Okay, and much like William Shakespeare did in his day, Plautus models these on Greek comedies that were written by Athenians. So, again, no new original stories. Okay? Maybe older people that you know complain about that there's nothing new. Okay? So let's get into the notes part. Okay? So what we need to know is we've been talking about verbs. We talked about verbs the other day. And I told you that, let me change my color here. Most verbs have 4 principal parts. Okay? Now, again, most. There's one specifically that we will learn this year that does not have a 4th principal part. And that's okay. All right? What they do is they provide stems for different verb forms. Okay? So each principal part has a use as we keep building upon our learning. All right? Now, the first 2 principal parts are probably the most important for us right now because the first 2 principal parts tell a verb's conjugation. And remember, we talked about that conjugations are like the families. Okay? So let's review. First conjugation, the first principal part ends in O. Second principal part ends, that's not a very good S, so let's fix that, ends in ARE. Okay, make sure that you have the macron over the O and the macron over the A of the ARE. Okay, so I know that we used paro in our notes, but let's use another one. Let's use amo. Okay, so if we look at amo, amare, we can see why it is a first conjugation verb. It's a first conjugation verb because here we have O, and then in the second principal part we have ARE. Okay? So, second conjugation. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. Second conjugation, the first principal part ends in EO. Okay, with a macron over that O. And second principal part ends in ERE. Excuse me. And there's a macron over that first E. Okay, so again, EO and macron ERE. All right, so I know we did 10AO in our notes, so let's talk about dokeo. Okay, and so dokeo is a second conjugation verb, and we know that because our first principal part ends in EO, and our second principal part ends in a macron ERE. Okay, so let's go through the notes a little further. Okay, and we're going to look at the conjugation of these 6 verbs right here, and we're going to decide what they are. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to kind of do this yourself. It shouldn't take you very long. If you're still a little confused, do know that I don't always manage to get in the macrons like I should, and so I just went and put some more in for you. But even if I don't have a macron over the O, okay, that doesn't mean that video here is not second conjugation, okay? You still have the EO and the macron ERE here. So this is second conjugation, okay? Habito is O and RE, so this one is first, okay? Paros from our notes. And if you forgot, that's okay. But if you look at paro, parare, does it fit more like video, videre, or habito, habitare? Okay, and that's right. It fits more like habito, habitare. So this is a first conjugation. Okay, debeo, eo, macron, ere. So this one is second. Okay. All right, on number 5, kuro, kurare, we have O and ARE, so this one is first. And then on number 6, 10AO, again from our notes. But if you said along with me that number 5 is first, this doesn't look the same. Your verb in number 6 doesn't look the same as the one in number 5, so this one is second. Okay? So that's what conjugations do. Okay, that's how we tell them apart. And remember, it's because our vowel on the verb stem is different. Okay, so now we're going to move on into something called infinitives. Okay, in Latin, the second principal part, so here, the one that ends in RE, is called the infinitive. Okay, now you do need to know, this is kind of important, most but not all infinitives end in RE. Okay, we're going to see another one soon, a new verb soon. It's called an irregular verb, and its second principal part, its infinitive, does not end in RE. Okay, now, but infinitives do have their own translation. Okay, and that is going to be to and then whatever the verb means. Okay, so in here I'm going to say verb definition. Okay, so for example, to keep on with our, here I'm just going to put in some macrons here because now it kind of drives me crazy. So again, we need the second principal part. Okay, so that's parare, that's tenere. Okay, and so when you see those forms, you're going to translate it with to and then the verb definition. Okay, you don't use pronouns here, it's just to whatever. Okay, so in the glossary of your book, okay, that's what we probably need the most. So you need to be, I'm getting there myself, so give it a sec. You need to be on or about page 433. We're going to start with expecto, which is in the E's, kind of towards the end. Okay. And so when we look up expecto in the back of your book, this is what you're going to see. Let me put those darn macrons in. There we go. But this is what you see in the back of the book. Okay? And what this one means right here, this one, that means it's first conjugation. Okay? And what you need to know about first conjugation is, I'm going to write it up here, most, and again, most. There are two very specific ones that do not do this. Most first conjugation verbs follow this pattern. Okay. Oh, follow this pattern. And that is that you will have O, RA, AWI, atus. Okay? So what you have to do is you're going to take expecto. And we're going to very easily make the infinitive ourselves. We're going to take expecto. We're going to drop our O there. Okay? And then we're going to add this ARE right here. So we just made it ourselves, expectate. Okay? And so this means to wait for. Your book also says to await or even expect. So going into habito, okay, you scroll a little further in your ebook, okay, and you get to habito and it says the same thing, one. Okay, so we know that we're going to do the same thing that we did kind of up here. Okay, so we're going to take the O off. We're going to drop it. We're going to have habit. And then we're going to add that ARE. So we have habitare. Okay, and this one means to live. Okay, your book also says to dwell. That's a fancy word for live. Okay, now, our next verb looks an awful lot like number 2, but it's not. It's different. Notice that it ends in EO. Okay, so this one is second conjugation. So your book is gonna kind of give you what that second principal part is supposed to be. It really just gives you the ending of your infinitive. So we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did up here. We're going to drop the O. Actually, we'll drop the EO. I think that might make it easier. So we'll say HAB. And then we're going to take that second principal part ending that they give you and add it. And so there's habere. Right? So this is going to be to have. Okay? Next up is ambulo. So let's go back kind of to the beginning of the glossary. There we go. Okay. Ambulo says that it's a 1. So you should know exactly what to do right now. You should be dropping the O. Okay, and so you have ambule, and we're going to add that ARE for ambulare, and this means to walk. Okay, let me just tell you, it's kind of weird that I have many books that have told me that this is where we get our word for ambulance. And I don't know about you, but if I'm in an ambulance, I want them doing more than just walking. I want them to probably speed. I just find it funny, that's all. Okay. All right, so for Woko, we're going towards the end of the glossary, so you got to scroll quite a ways. And we're going to get Woko, and it says one. So again, that means it's first conjugation. Okay. So you know what to do. We're dropping that O. And so we have Vak, and then we're going to add ARE for Wokare. Okay. And this means to call. Okay. All right, one more with video. Now, video is pretty obvious as to what it means. There we go. Okay. Now, video did the same thing that habeo did. Okay. Where it just gives you the dash ERE. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this EO right here. And so wid or vid is our stem. And then we're going to add this ERE macron right here for widere. Okay. And this is going to be to see. All right. So we're going to continue on. Okay. And we're going to talk about subject-verb agreement. Okay. So this is kind of, it's not really difficult, and it's not really something that you guys think a lot about in English. And you're going to say, hey, Miss McConaughey, that makes sense, but you're still going to struggle with it. Okay. In Latin, the subject and verb must agree. Okay. So what that means is if your subject is singular, then the verb must be singular. Let's fix that. There we go. Singular. I can spell. Okay. So, for example, this was from our first story. Rea Silvia Romulum et Remum amat. Okay. Now, Rea Silvia, this is our subject. She is singular. She's just one person. And so what that means is our verb down here, if she's our subject, has to be singular as well. Okay? And so that's how you're going to know your subject. Now, for another reason that this must be singular is that Romulum et Remum, if that were our subject, they would be plural. Okay? And our verb, as I said, is singular. Our verb is singular. Okay? So, therefore, if the subject is plural, then the verb must be plural. Okay? So, for example, puelai, okay, this is going to be plural. Okay? Nerant. So, nerant had to be plural. Now, you could have a plural subject here like puelai, or you could have two singular subjects like Romulus et Remus. Now, yes, they are both singular. But what does this et do? This et adds them together. To make a plural subject. Okay? So since, let's say for argument's sakes, 1 plus 1 equals 2, then you needed a plural verb. Okay? So, let's look. On number 1, we have puelai ad urbem. And so we need to look at puelai. Puelai, it is plural. We know that it's plural because it's plural up here. It was plural up here. All right? So we need to decide between ambulat or ambulant. Okay, so which one was singular and which one is plural? Okay, and hopefully you're saying that we need ambulant. Okay. All right, on number 2, we're kind of going about this one a little backwards. Okay, we're going to look at our verb. And so our verb is clouded. Okay, and it ends in a T, just a T. So since it ends in an T, we need a singular subject. Okay, so we need to decide between Uncle Amulius or the boys. Okay, so Amulius is the singular one, and our verb is singular. So Amulius is going to be our subject there. Okay. All right, on number 3, it's kind of like our second example on the plural. Again, Romulus is singular and so is Remus, but this et right here adds them together to make plural. And so we need crescunt. Okay. All right, I think that's our last one. So one more. All right. So again, like number 2, I'm going to my verb. And this is T, and that makes it singular. So are we picking Romulus or Romulus et Remus? Okay. So remember, we just talked about on number 3 that Romulus and Remus are plural. So it is definitely not Romulus and Remus. It is just Romulus by himself. Okay. All right. So that's it on this one for your chapter 4 notes, or excuse me, chapter 2 notes. If you have questions, you should email me. This is my email address. I am happy to try to help you. I hope you're, oops, we don't need that last dot. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope to see you soon.